Yeesh. Y'all already doing stuff and we didn't even start nothing yet. YouTube, what's up? I love this. Welcome to the discussion. All right. It's probably my daughter. Yeah, that's it. She just said, "Hey, Brooklyn, no, you can't do that." Brooklyn was like, "Rah!" I said that to Jenny the other day. I was like, man, a whole 4 days of just hearing yes, 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 yes. Like we say no one time to these kids because they've been spoiled by their grandparents. Trey has a full yes. Like everybody knows that part. I'm just saying, yeah, we still have to say no. And you would think that we made Trey watch his dog be murdered, you know? Yeah, if you would see the reaction. It's like literally all I said was, you cannot have any more sugar before bed. It's like, son, relax. It is okay. All right. Chapter 3. There is nobody like the Lord. Through the end of the chapter. A lot of stuff to get into, a lot of stuff to break down. Yeah. Who wants to just jump in? Let's do that first. Let's just jump in, have a free for all. Are you raising it? Oh, you were just fake punching Jacob in his head? Cool. I was not raising my hand. I was just fake punching my husband in his head. That's cool, you know?
I think I'm starting to catch a trend in my thinking.
Yes?
Because I've noticed in the part of every section, I essentially have the same rooted formulation in my thinking of God. And it's really literally it's on the sidebar here, then it's here, and I'm like, these are all similar questions like the Lord has been asking me.
Also, as your husband, super good on you for seeing a trend. I see you. I see you. Look at you. I'm so proud of you right now. It's not even funny. I'm so proud of my wife.
And I'm so thankful because I think that it's because of Jesus and the Holy Spirit that it's not threatening. It's like, oh, wow, I think that way. Oh, okay. It's not hurtful. And I love that about God when He just shows us things about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm noticing a trend, and it's like an actual awareness of my faith.
Mm-hmm.
I think because it has been such a natural part of me my whole life, I actually haven't been aware of its presence.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I've noticed this trend. So on page 71, he said, "To whom then will you liken God, or what likeness compares with Him?" From Isaiah 40:18. "And to whom will you compare me, or who is my equal?" asks the Holy One. And I think I wrote here, I don't think that I'm aware of the natural comparisons that I am making.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to make sense of God, maybe understand His doing, that I'm comparing it to the things of the world, and I'm just not aware of that line.
Yeah.
Because the first week of study, remember, I was like, I really struggled with what is me, what is Jesus? Remember that?
Yeah.
The first week, and then the next day, I'm like, where's my sinful me? Now we're supposed to, and I'm noticing that I am not, and this book is showing me who He is, so that I'm just aware of what He is, and where I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's been opening up my eyes
in a
different way to just see actually what my faith
That's tight.
Looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I think chapter 1, maybe intro. But she makes the point, and it's all through the New Testament. But the more that you give yourself to God legitimately, and not in the Christian sense of like, oh yeah, I gave myself to the Lord and now I am his. But like legitimately, the more that you just learn who he is, the more that his light will legitimately shine and show you where those things are. So it's like when we do sing a song that says, show me who you are and feel me, like open up my eyes and wonder, like that's so that I can legitimately build my life on who he is. Like as I see that and as that light shines more and more, called it, called it. Just talking about these kids, man. That was my daughter screaming, and Jenny says she probably like, I want my nanny. She comes downstairs. Who does she go to? Her nanny. Called it. Wow. I just want to let y'all know I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. Okay, anyway, as we get closer to God and as we learn more about him legitimately, those things are going to be shown to us more and more. And because God is the best at doing what he does, it never feels like something is being taken away from me. It doesn't feel like I have to give something up and hang my head in shame. It doesn't feel like, man, this is going to be the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. You're going to feel like a weight is lifted because that is what God does. He lifts the weight off of you to put righteousness on you. And it's so cool to see in real time as we're reading this book how much we are now seeing. Oh man, like it's not scary or crazy or like I don't feel beat down realizing that I am not like God. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't understand.
Yeah, it's like it's not a like we keep that so far away. Like, oh well, yeah, I'm a sinner, but like Jenny said a couple weeks ago, like we'll say we're sinners, but like we wouldn't be able to list the sins. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh well, yeah, I'm a sinner saved by grace. Well, then what are the sins? Because we stand here on the side of saying, I'm a Christian, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. But because we don't actually have relationship with the Father, because we don't actually let his light shine into our lives, because we don't actually study the word of God, we can't even get to a point where God actually lets me know where I am not like him and further how to allow that to be like him. And it's the coolest process. It's the coolest thing. That's super tight. Okay. Oh, go ahead. Right. And I go, we quote this. We know that. We know that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Bingo. Yeah. If I can point, like, if I can quantify, I love that. I can actually quantify, then I'm not really tapped in as much as I think I am. Like, if your answer is more than like, yeah, Jesus is doing stuff in me, and I really don't know how it's happening, but it's crazy. If it's more than that, and you can explain it, we may not be as tapped in as we think we are. And I love that. The idol of good. Yeesh. The idol of good, which next week, as we read, we will talk about unholy gods, idols. So get ready because this is where she comes with a sledgehammer to wreck your whole life. Um, but yeah, and we settle and we sit. And again, though, it goes back to I have to carry this. I have to do it for God. I have to show him that I can do it. I have to show him I am worthy. I have to show him when instead we should be like kids who just come up and they're like, yo, I burped. You're like, oh, okay. you know, it's like, just be. Just be, and the rest legitimately is going to happen. I wanted to talk about this towards the bottom of page 71. In prayers for deliverance, the psalmist often appealed to the uniqueness of God, his transcendence, as a reason to trust that he will come to their aid. And then she says, your righteousness, O God, reaches the high heavens. Who have done great things, O God, who is like you? And there is none like you among the gods, O Lord, nor are there any works like yours. And she asks the question, when was the last time God's transcendence or holiness was your whole reason, your every motivation to trust him? When was the last time that you looked at God and said, man, you are legitimately outside of all of this? Cool. I'm just going to sit back and let you do what you do. Huh? Right? And it's crazy because most of the time we miss those moments when he shows up and does something anyway, because it's not what we would have preferred or how we would have liked it to be packaged. Because it was like I had to do a little bit of work on my own part. Like, well, God didn't move because, it's like Daniela saying, well, I mean, I just didn't show up and then I had 100. I had to take the test. Victor prayed, God give her the test, and I still had to take the test. That's what we do. And like on an example like that, it's like, that's ridiculous. Of course you have to take the test. But it's like, that's where faith comes into play. That's when I sit and I understand that God is legitimately outside of any and everything. Okay, do what you do. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to have a good time. When we started Oasis, I think that 6 months, God was doing so many things, probably in our last, maybe 2016 altogether, 2017. Yeah. 2016 for like a year and a half. God had just done so many things where it was undeniable. Like I could not stay doubting him. Like there are too many things that God was doing that forced me to a place where it was like, okay, you obviously know what you're doing. I am just going to sit here and be quiet. So our house, I lost my job 2016. I was still working at the Vine at the time. And so we were not making enough money to pay our mortgage. We were paying everything that we could, but like we just could not make the mortgage payment and pay everything else. So it's like, well, while we live here, I'm definitely going to have internet. So there it is, And so, it was probably April or May. We had not paid for it was a while. But got a email and our house had gone into foreclosure. And so anytime I was coming home from somewhere, I was like waiting for the sign to be on the door. Like, hey, your house has been foreclosed. You now have to move out. Jenny got pregnant end of January 2017. I started working and, we started making payments again. But as you all know, people who you owe money are like, you owe me this money, And so, yeah, we have Trey. Jenny's pregnant with Trey. We went through financial peace. We saved up some money, and probably April or May that year, Jenny's 4 or 5 months pregnant. We had some money saved, and we call, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to settle your debt, to essentially catch you up?" And we had the money. 6 months before, we did not have the money at all. House was foreclosed, and they're like, "Yo, here's your chance." Boom, we pay the money. Everything is fine. House is good. We head into the summer. Okay, we're about to leave. I wanted to leave the Vine so bad. It was like 3 weeks in a row. I was like, "Babe, this is the week. We start a church next Sunday." She's like, "Where?" I was like, "I don't know. Jesus is gonna tell me. I'm mad." She's like, "That's Don't do that, But as we got deeper into the summer, heading into August, it was like, okay, we're released from this. We send out a letter to all the elders. We tell everybody. We start setting up what we were going to do, when we were going to do it. The church was given 100 chairs for free, brand new, in the box. People were handing us tithes checks. Hey, here's our tithes for August. I'm like, we don't start the church till September. That's okay. Hold the check. I was like, Jesus is not going to be mad at me. I'm going to put this somewhere else, But people were legitimately giving us money, their money, to God, handing it to us straight up. So then we couldn't use the chairs because we were meeting in the park. So then the guy who gave us the chairs was like, yo, you can use these other chairs. So he gave us 200 chairs. It was just so many things happening. God was just sending people legitimately. We moved to Windy Plains for free. We met there for 3 months. Moved to Tracy's, where she's only charging us 10% of whatever we bring in. It was crazy. And legitimately, God just overwhelming us with so many things. You have no reason but to say, okay, I have no idea what you're doing. It's pretty cool. Trey was born October. Gosh, 3 weeks after we started. 4 weeks, 6 weeks. 6 weeks after we started Oasis. 6 weeks, newborn, and we're just chugging along. And I'm like, it was hard, parenting, duh. But again, God showed how much he is in all of it. And just sitting there and being there and letting him do it allows me to sit here today and go, oh, yeah, I'm going to just play rap music, have a meme, and make sure people get to Jesus because he's going to do everything anyway. So why do I need to stress out about whether people are reading the book or not? Why do I need to stress out about whether people are studying or not? I'm just going to be obedient because God is above even my little effort. So I have no issue saying, yo, I'm not going to be here when I'm not going to be here because Jesus is doing this anyways. So y'all don't need me. Y'all need Jesus, It's so tight. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Where no matter what anybody does around us, we're still going to be living our best life.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if you lose your job. It doesn't matter if you get into a fight with a friend or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, as long as we've got this,
Yeah.
none of this matters. It's kind of like you said. Like you prayed on the test, you trusted God with it. You didn't trust anybody else. You didn't trust it. You were going to give it to you, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That was you and Jesus.
Yeah.
The more you do that, the more you're going to see him.
Yeah. It's tight. It's a really good place to live. You gonna say something? Oh, yeah. Okay. On page 73. Oh. Huh? I was actually coming back to 72. That was going to lead us into 73. What's on 72? You want to talk about? Go ahead. Yeah, I was about to go right there. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Heck yeah. I love that she says, as incomparable as God is, it seems to me that one problem with us humans is that we become so used to the idea of God that we treat him as commonplace. But she says, I think that may be our default, however. Treating God like he's ordinary might be a natural response when we're ignorant to who God has revealed himself to be. Even with Moses, if he wasn't told not to come near, he would have. He had to be instructed on how to approach God, to not come too close, to remove his shoes, and respect the sanctified ground underfoot. The same with Israel, who was warned not to touch the mountain God descended on, lest they be put to death following the irreverent approach. And then I highlighted, devoid of awe, we reach behind the veil too quick to even notice the disrespect. We enter the Holy of Holies and treat the mercy seat like a footstool. The Lord's Prayer begins in such a way that if one decided to let it sit on the mind for a bit, one might choose not to say anything at all. Our Father in heaven, hallowed or holy be your name. Around him, the seraphim refused to look. Before him, Isaiah confessed. Seeing him, Isaiah fell on his face. In front of him, John fell at his feet like a body does once the soul leaves. And I wrote in the side, why do we rush? Why do we feel that we need to rush to get to God? And I know that she starts this devoid of awe. We just miss it. But like, that's crazy, as Curtis was just saying, like, this is not just something that's happening individually. This is something that's happening in the bride of Christ. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, we've all been in churches where people, I'm just here, like Daniela said, oh, snap, I just been asking him for stuff. I haven't even like taken any time to just be with him. And what is that? I mean, I don't think there's a lot of answers, you know. It's more of a rhetorical thing. Go ahead. Uh-huh. Yes. The theological film, Encanto. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Of what they view perfection is. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. And I don't have to be. This was an answer to my question. Treating God like his ordinary might be a natural response when we're ignorant. I've been ignorant of God is. Because even if Moses even had to be instructed on how to approach God, why would I not think that I need to be taught how to approach the Father, the Creator of the universe? When even Moses had to be told to take his shoes off, to not, or even when he went up to the mountain, to like, you can't see me or you will die. Mm-hmm. You know, stuff like that. Like, to be ignorant, to be that I don't have to learn that. Yeah. Or be instructed, teachable in my life. Yeah. And to look at my life as teachable. Yeah. You know, this answered my kind of one of my ever ongoing questions that I've been having. Where's the line? Yeah. That I don't have to be taught. Right. It's thinking I don't have to be taught. That's crazy. Go ahead.
And God's word says to test him, to know that he is that.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, challenging. He's telling you, challenging. I mean, if I gotta put myself in the street, then I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time, we play this ignorant type of, we have this mentality that we just rather just know him to a degree and then kind of walk away from him.
I would disagree.
I'm saying that for myself.
Right, because I don't think generally that we play dumb as much as we are illiterate. You know what I'm saying? I know, like, individually there are.
Pertaining to somebody that has at least some knowledge
Right.
about who God is and what he can be in your life,
Mm-hmm.
that we misrepresent God and who he is.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, that we, when it comes to transcending and all this, that we literally put God in a box, and it's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
We only know a certain degree of what
Mm-hmm.
his mind can comprehend about how we, either what we heard from people or what we read.
Yeah.
And yet it's beyond what we can see. That's why the things that are written in scripture, that are written in English, but if you read in the Hebrew text,
Mhm.
it takes you in a lot deeper.
So much more colorful.
Because
Yeah.
there's a deeper thing about
Mm-hmm.
it. And we're just going to scratching the surface
Correct.
of who he is.
Correct.
And he's telling you, you need to come into the Holy of Holies, man, and spend some time with him.
Mm-hmm.
Be intimate with him.
Mm-hmm.
Being on that outer court, that's not where I want to.
Right.
Come in here,
Mhm.
challenge you.
Yeah.
It's not. There's a thing that I want to do
Mm-hmm.
because I love you.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is we're afraid to cross that threshold sometimes because we make ourselves feel like we're not compatible with what you said. We get to a point that we draw that line.
Right.
I'm just afraid. I
Mhm.
don't know. You might have to extend that rope out and kind of drag me.
Mhm.
You know, because
Yeah.
I mean, my own self, if I'm not worthy. I feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
But in your presence, oh, man, it's so different. You know?
And I love going back to what Jenny said, where we have not been taught. Like, what we do here at Oasis is on purpose. So I go, anybody who has listened to me walk through the tabernacle process, he breaks it all down, how to worship a king, amazing book. But I go, that is what our service is. Our service is to enter the gates with thanksgiving and enter the court with praise. And then we sing songs about Jesus. We sing songs about the holiness of God. We look at legitimately the altar of sacrifice, what Jesus did for us. So then we sit down and we're washed in the word. We have conversation about Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Scriptures are flying. People are testifying. The whole nine. All of these things are happening. We're being washed by the word. And after we get done, what do? We go into the holy place. And I go, this isn't something that's like, oh, it's a cool thing to do after the teaching time. Like, no, this is to show you, one, this is a process that you can live on your own every single day. And every single week, I fully believe that what changes people is the holy place time. Because we've all been in churches where we get done with the sermon or whatever. I mean, yeah, most churches, it's the sermon. We get done with the sermon, and then what's next? Church is over. Or we have announcements where you just forget everything that was in the sermon because we went through announcements, you know? And so I go, legitimately, having time for people to sit in whatever we just talked about for the last 25, 30, 45 minutes, that's my favorite time. Like, literally, I'm like, okay, Jesus, cool. I'm glad my job is done. You're on, you know? And I fully believe that that is the game changer, that when we go into the holy place, we are intimate with God. Everybody's sitting here, and I love looking up. Sometimes people are crying. Sometimes you got people praying together. Sometimes you got somebody else going over there and doing this. Like, I love it. Because literally, I am one person, but everybody else tapped into what Jesus is doing, spending that time with him. That's a game changer. It's so cool. And my prayer is that legitimately all of this teaches us and continues to teach us how, what's the word I'm looking for? But like how right there God is, how tangible he is. Like you can literally have this holy place moment that you have on Sunday morning on Tuesday. You just have to turn off the TV or the podcast or whatever it is. Like, okay, tell your kids, go sit down somewhere. They can be as loud as they want, but like go over there because I have to spend time with Jesus. And this is something that can happen every single day. It's not just how we do church, but it's a bigger part of like how we actually get to Jesus every single day. It's super tight. This is crazy.
Trying to put together thoughts, this isn't fully formed, but I think sometimes, and I don't know if you guys have heard people say things like this, but like, oh, Old Testament God, New Testament God. And I think part of the problem is that we rely on maybe this idea like, oh, what if we're in having Jesus, that it kind of takes away the holiness. And like we think about, you know, in the Old Testament, there were a lot of things that teach us about how holy God is. And then in the New Testament, Jesus tore the veil. And so we have like freedom of access. And I think a lot of times we focus a lot on that.
Yeah.
And when you asked the question, why do we rush? I think it's a combination of like, we don't really know that there's a reason not to, and also society, cultural norms now, but like, oh, if we're having Jesus, we can come anytime, and it's like, I think also tied to how we view the Trinity, because it's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, like they're unique and different, all one, and that's kind of hard to wrap your brain around sometimes. But thinking about like the veil being torn, and then her saying like, we just reach behind the veil, like, no, there is no veil anymore. But also God is still the same God. So I think it is just like hard for humanness to really get it.
Yeah. That's true. I think it was chapter 2. I had a thought and then I was listening deeper and I forgot my thought. So just gonna be honest there.
Well, that thought wasn't fully formed
The world gives us a view of how our relationship with God is supposed to look like, to the point that they don't even acknowledge that we have that like wholeness that he has and like the goodness he has. Like, have you went out the right time in the morning when you're good to go?
Right.
Whatever you want to do. That's not how it works. Like, you need to have something for every day, every moment. Like spending that one-on-one. Or like making sure you clock into moments to understand his full holiness.
I love this. She talks about Ezekiel not being able to describe God. He keeps using the appearance of, the likeness. It was like this. It had an appearance of, yada, 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 so on and so forth. And she says, middle of 74, of all the words at his disposal, he couldn't find one accurate enough for what he saw. And Curtis said that earlier. If I'm at a place where I can just describe what God is doing or who he is, I may not be as tapped in as I think I am. Because it is indescribable. And like legitimately, I went through a phase where me and Jesus had to work through some stuff about my worth as a pastor. But now when people say things, I shrug my shoulders, like, because I know how little I do in the lives of everybody here. And so people are like, oh man, this or that or whatever. I'm like, Jesus is doing things. Because legitimately, how could I describe what he is doing? Like, I don't know what he's doing one-on-one with Eric. I don't know what those conversations are like on Wednesday afternoons. I don't know. I'm not in those conversations. And it would be crazy of me to say I did or to be able to try to quantify, you know? That's crazy. Anyway, bottom of 74, she says, since God is unique and in a class all by himself, there are times when in an effort to either understand him or explain him, we take the attribute of God that resembles us most and make our human experience the lens by which we see God. What are your thoughts? Because if there was a yeesh moment, that is a yeesh moment. We take the attribute of God that resembles us most and make our human experience the lens by which we see God. What are your thoughts before we move on to love? Yeesh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. Right. That's so tight.
Yeah, like this is all who he is.
Mm-hmm.
It is wrapped up. It is like
Yeah.
when you put sand together, like you cannot undo it. Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I saw a video this week. I think it was one of the podcasts that Jackie does. And it was a 30-second clip, you know. And the question was, why do people trust the universe more than they trust God? And we've all heard somebody say, oh yeah, just put it out in the universe. I just, you know, if you put it out, it'll come back, you know, you got to let the universe know what you want, so on and so forth. And one, she said, well, the universe isn't going to tell me to pick up my cross and carry it. So there's that. We'll talk about that next week. But she also said that the universe, we get to create what it's going to bring back to us. We get to image the universe in our likeness. And the biggest reason, or one of the biggest reasons that we don't trust God like that is because we can't legitimately image him in our likeness and then show up and be and enjoy his presence and all the things that come with him. Like, you have to only do that with the true and living God whose image you are made in. That makes sense? But it's like, of course, the universe is going to give me what I want if I am the one creating what the universe is going to give. That makes sense? If I'm in the seat saying, oh, well, yeah, the universe wants me to have this. Well, yeah, that's what the universe wants you to have, because it's like a kid talking to Santa. It's like Santa just gives freely, so I can just ask because Santa's on my side. I'm a good kid. You don't even listen half the time, but I haven't been naughty. It's like, where's the list? Are you sure? But that's because Santa, the attributes that they know about Santa is now made in that kid's image. Of course I'm a good kid. All I did was scream when you told me no. That's not crazy. I just hit my sister 3 times. That's it. I'm not naughty. But it's easy to justify where I am if the universe isn't holding me to something higher. And that's what we do with God as Christians. Go ahead.
So I have a couple people in my life that believe like the riches and all things like that. And so I just kind of laugh at it because I get this energy from rocks and all this. And I'm like, you're the authority over this rock. But my authority is the rock who gives me
Let's go.
to keep going.
Let's go.
Get these crystals out because you're
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
and maybe they don't want God to be a parent to them. And I get that, I see that. But it's also like, you shouldn't, God isn't a parent. God
Right.
isn't who, like the bad attributes of what a mom did or what a dad
Right.
did to you. He's not going to hurt you. He's going to pull you out into it, like something you're not comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not going to like just smack you down and not let you win sometimes.
Right.
He's going to like build you up.
Yeah.
And be built up.
Legitimate love, yeah.
But if I'm the authority over my life and I'm like, I really want a Dr. Pepper, even though I just drank 4 of them, that's that's not gonna help me. And God's gonna be like, hey man, you just drank 3 Dr. Peppers, you want to like take a step back and drink some water, because your body is a temple and I need you to build it up for me. So that's why you're not being worthy of yourself.
I love that.
Your emotions are so whack, and you can't even keep your emotions straight. That's why we talk to people.
Bruh.
And we go to therapy, we get the medicine, and we just talk and pray. But if I'm authority over my emotions, then how can I be trustworthy in my decision making? That's why I can't be the rocky of the crystal.
Yeah. That's what's up. I'm here for that. She did. She did. Yes, expect my rap album next week, maybe a couple of weeks. Easter, I don't know. We'll see. David said, I feel we can filter God's presence without knowing by using our human experiences. And I love that this keeps coming up, without knowing. Jenny and I have been talking just in general, like from this side of it, like as a pastor, it's like you get to see everything, you know what I'm saying? You're the one having the conversations with everybody. And I would say probably maybe 3 years ago, if I looked at right now, just the general landscape of the church where we don't have much biblical literacy, I would have been a lot more critical 3 years ago. But today I'm like, yo, that breaks my heart, because like Christians are living lives that legitimately we're struggling and we don't have to. And so it's like, again, praying something like, yo, Jesus, make me like you. Show me what you see. All those things, your heart turns to something that you could not do yourself. Your heart turns to, man, I want to do everything that I can to make sure people see Jesus. So yeah, we're going to study a whole book of the Bible as long as it takes. Sorry, Hannah, I may not preach ever again. I mean, I'm going to preach Easter. I will preach Easter this year. But after that, I don't know. Because like I would rather we actually know the word of God. And I don't want it filtered through Rafer. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm, yeah, like you do. Yo, listen, you don't want the universe of Rafer, okay? It's a party, but like it's just a party, you know? Like there's little discipline. That's why I need Jesus. Jesus helps me with all the things. Anyway, making him in our image, taking, I love that, the attribute that is, any attribute of God and making it most like us. I don't think, again, that we do this purposefully. I think it is naturally just how we look to relate because we don't understand the holiness. Yes, it's our default. Right. Which is fine because, again, yes.
And so this lens has to be God.
Yes.
It can't be my default.
Right.
That'll
preach. I can't even see. I can't even see. Preach. Do you preach normally? Because that was really great.
It also comes back to not focusing on what the holiness of God means, but that's why it is our default, because we try to compare him to our understanding instead of like, I've never been told like holier means like, I mean, I think I've been told like set apart, but I never thought like operates completely different. I can't fathom it within myself. Like operates outside of human comprehension. Which then if you have that, you're like, that the analogies are kind of pointless. Like they're helpful to a point, but that's not what I'm going to cling to. But we haven't focused on the holiness of God.
Right.
Therefore, all we've had in like our curious minds and like our minds that want to relate and to learn is like ourselves.
Yeah.
We fail to focus on
Yeah.
the holiness of God in that like who He
Yeah, that's so good. Gosh, it's so good.
In the gospel, I can't remember when, but it's like whenever Jesus is walking on water, and then like, I don't remember who has to like walk out of the boat, but then like
Peter.
Peter, and he like takes his eyes off Jesus, and then he starts sinking in the water. He's like, he's like, I'm gonna drown.
Mhm.
Jesus is like, put your eyes on me.
Yeah,
That's all I'm gonna do.
strictly. That's it.
That's it.
Which is so crazy. That's it. Real quick, has nothing to do with nothing. The Walk to Emmaus, they show this video of like the disciples at the Last Supper. And essentially it's just a video of like all these guys were normal people who just love Jesus. So just be a normal person who loves Jesus. But at one point they're talking trash to Peter, and Peter, who has the temper, he's like, fine. And then he goes, nobody else here has walked on water. Because he wanted to sit next to Jesus, and they're like, no, I get this. He's like, nobody else here has walked on water. Anyway, okay, so then she says, let's use the attribute love. And Destry touched on this a little bit, Jesus, friend, love. We lean into that 100%. But when it comes to us and doing that ourselves, jumping to the middle of 75, she says, love is a commonality we all share. Introduced to it at first by the people who wiped our behinds, bent their backs to ensure we stood up straight, clothed and kept our bellies full until we were old enough to fix our own plate. From there, we gathered and spread about the country, acting out the love we inherited on friends and folks we made more than friends, anxiously waiting for the day when our lovers use words to tell us that they love us back. Oh, we know what it's like to love and be loved, but what happens when our lovely experiences become the primary framework by which we understand God? And she says, I will tell you what happens. We read the sentence, God is love, disconnected from a fundamental understanding that God is holy, holy, holy. We interpret the text with our experiences as the commentary. Using our life as a cross-reference, exegeting God with our world, we inevitably end up with a God made in our own image and then expect him to behave just like us. All week. Yeesh, right? And I was saying this, this was the example that popped up. So I go, Jenny's parents express love differently than Rafer's parents, right? Both sets of parents love their children, love their grandchildren. They love differently. Jenny and I are here who love differently. And now we are creating how we express our love to each other, to our children, to those that are around us. And so if each of these couples now express love differently, how do you actually get to say which love is the truth? And so then, like she just said, when we say God is love, well, we now have an idea of what love is that is not based on him, but based on what we feel, what we feel, what we feel. And I've mentioned it probably 3 or 4 weeks where this whole thing of love is love, what does that even mean? What does love is love mean? What does that mean? Because even in 3 couples who really want the best from Jesus, in Jesus, for the people around them, it's still different for all 3 of those couples. So if it's different for all of those couples, and all those couples want the best for each other, want the best for everybody they're around, and then somebody who comes up and says love is love, but they don't even see life how I see life, now we're fighting and we're doing this, and now we look out, and when we do say God is love, it's not the same picture. That's crazy. And we're living a life legitimately outside of the fact that God is holy. That's crazy, right? Go ahead.
Isn't there different varieties, types of love, like love?
Yes.
And then there's agape love.
Yes.
So there, I mean, the love that we share amongst ourselves is more like a human type emotion, type love.
Mhm.
And then agape is how God loves us no matter what kind of people,
Mm-hmm.
not how much trash we bring into our life. God still loves us.
Right.
But our type of love sometimes can break the barrier of what I love you as long as you love me and treat me like this.
Right, because it's conditional.
Back,
It's
I'm
conditional.
gonna throw some scripture at you or a piece of wood and bust you in the head.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love that.
And that's the whole thing about dealing with the things of God.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot use our humanistic type of love
Yes.
or our expressions to define who He is. There's no way that we can do that. It's impossible for us humanly define God in
Mm-hmm.
any way,
Right.
even when it comes to His attributes.
Mm-hmm.
We have to learn to accept who He is and what He is,
Yes.
and to try. I'm just saying, to understand why we feel the way we feel at times.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's going to have to take a prophet to come to us and say, hey, God, by the Spirit, open their eyes so they can see all the angels standing around us,
Mm-hmm.
and taking care of us and protecting us.
Heck yeah.
Because see, we only see
In part.
in that mirror.
In
We
part.
don't see clearly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like this gentleman who uses his glasses. I mean, yeah, you can see, but you're only limited to see how far you can see.
Yes.
And that's just like you in your universe. When you go outside at night and you see the stars, see, you don't only see a glimpse of what God is.
Correct.
There's many other planets way far beyond your natural vision.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why it amazes me when I see like National Geographic and
Uh-huh.
all these beautiful things that God has created. You know, it's just your imagination at work.
Yeah.
And that right there is nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
God is.
Heck
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
I do.
That's why I really believe
Damn,
that
so
when you read the Old Testament, and they say that when they were in the presence of God, they felt as though they were dead because he says, take your shoes off.
Mm-hmm.
This is holy ground.
Yeah.
He meant that for a reason. You're not playing with anybody, you're playing with the living God.
Correct. Correct.
Me, I am that I am. And if you understand what those words are, it'll give you a broader understanding.
Heck yeah.
I am that I am.
We still have so much to unpack. Bottom of 76, she says, our parents, friends, and lovers gave us whatever degree of love they were capable of gifting. And when opened, we all learned through some jaded maturity or disappointment how inconsistent it was. Their best was never good enough, no matter how sincere it was, because all of their love was tainted and twisted around a hard heart, and their creaturely nature made it an insufficient substitute for God's. Imagine how foolish we are to grow up in a world of partially developed love, shaped by Adam's blood and generational trauma, only to look to that as the way God should be. No wonder our souls are so gray, fruit so scarce. In our attempt to make sense of God through our human lenses, we've actually lowered the bar for who God is. Becoming frustrated in his inability to be weak, we want God to be just like us because maybe then faith wouldn't be such a task. But he can't and he won't because he is too holy to be like anyone other than himself. That's crazy. We get frustrated with God because he won't be like me. I get frustrated with God because all he asks me is to trust and believe and know. How about you just, how about you fold, God? That's crazy. No wonder our souls are so gray, our fruit so scarce. I really pray that that paragraph is something that legitimately just like makes everybody think. Like, what is my fruit? What am I legitimately showing? Like, regardless of how long you've been doing this, regardless whether you're a pastor or not, legitimately, is my fruit scarce? Is my soul gray? Am I missing it because of what I think God should be like? That's probably the scariest thing. I just don't want to miss God on like just Rafer and him. Not like Rafer the pastor or husband or father, but just like Rafer the little boy, you know? Like, I just don't want to miss God. Not that I want to like be perfect. No, I just don't want to miss him. Because legitimately he's the best thing. And I don't want to give gray soul love to other people either. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. Okay, because we got like 10 minutes, and 10 minutes is going to take us over. 78. She says the wisdom and otherness displayed in his gospel is otherworldly as well. Through wisdom, what God set in motion as the criteria for forgiveness is truly unbelievable. With Allah, along with the God of Joseph Smith, Mormonism, and Charles Taze Russell, Jehovah's Witnesses, just to name a few, heaven can only be reached by way of works, which Ben pointed out last week. Which in consideration of the human mind, it makes sense that a God created in our image would require its servants to work and strive and toil to earn the forgiveness that eludes us all. Okay, grace isn't something that we understand or extend fundamentally. Okay, on that, real quick, we say God is love, right? God is love. He's a father. He wants all these things for you. But then we set these rules in place for people to follow so that they can earn the salvation that was already given for free. Further, we look at ourselves and we have to climb this ladder. We have to check the boxes. And because we do that to ourselves, because we're not actually tapped into God the Father, we then do that to other people. And we sit there as if we are sitting again in the mercy seat, handing down righteousness. And before we know it, we put ourselves over and over and over into this position that I know better than God. It's like grace doesn't even come fundamentally to us. You know how hard it is to tell a kid to share when they do not want to share? Brooklyn, come give me a hug. You see that? No, she's not. Like, that was the nice version of no. And look, she walked back and just looked at me. It's not something that is fundamentally given to us. And the crazy part is, like Jenny has been saying this whole time, I am so unaware. I'm so unaware that I am now just using my personal checklist to make sure I'm right with the God that I created in my image. And now, because I created that God in my image and we got a checklist, guess what? Your boy is holy, and I can tell you that you are not holy. I know you're not, because you don't do what me and my God got. We got a checklist. And you gonna say something? The crazy part is we sit here and we tell other people the actual checklist that God lined up, but we don't even realize that we've modified it to a God made in our image. Yes.
I literally do this thing. Like, there's somebody that has been coming at me, and I'm like, and I'm judging them, and they're like,
Because you telling somebody else that. Gossip's not on the checklist today. You know what I'm saying?
but yeah.
This is what we do. It's like, and this is what I love about doing this together. Like, nobody is exempt from this. Nobody is exempt from this. Nobody. The hardest thing I probably deal with as a pastor is text message responses from people all the time. I tell Jenny all the time, like, hey, we're doing this today, park in the back. And then people who are not going to be here, like, hey, I'm not going to be there. It's like, well, you just didn't have to respond. But Rafer, without Jesus, will sit in that and just go down the line that you don't just do like I do. And so I have to check this with Jesus. Why does that bother you so much, Rafer? I don't want to talk about it, because if I talk about how much it bothers me, then I'm the one that has to change. And I then don't get to talk about text messages. Right? By the way, keep sending your text messages. Respond how you want to, okay? That's between you and Jesus. I'm working on it. I'm a human being. And I'd be lying if I was like, oh yeah, me and Jesus, because now I'm giving you the version that we just said is not the version of God we know or should know. Go ahead.
In therapy world, when you should be, that's called cognitive distortion.
Mm-hmm.
That makes you feel good. If I should, you should, they should, that's a cognitive distortion. When in reality, it's a cognitive distortion. Irrational. When in reality, we should.
That's crazy. We all do it. Because again, what this does is it takes the responsibility and the accountability off of me. That's what it does. When again, the God we are learning about, he has all the accountability and all the responsibility anyway. Isn't that crazy how we do that? We always default to this checklist thing, man. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Like we're all in the same boat, and we don't want anyone to drown.
Mm-hmm.
We know the waves of the rain and the wind is great, this thunder and lightning, this sparks, and honestly, when we have a tendency to save one, that's love.
Mm-hmm.
That's the God love. Because he said, when he left, he gave us a what?
The commandment, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was a command to say, hey, go into all the world and preach the gospel.
Right.
And the issue that we're dealing with is some of us are preaching our gospel.
Mm-hmm. That is the problem.
And, one of the biggest things that I had to deal with was, as a believer, young teenager, there was a standard I lived by that was not everyone else's standard. And the Lord gave me a pretty good explanation for it, because I had ministered to someone for the longest time and trying to help them and put all this effort forward in regards to their livelihood. And the idea was that the Lord gave me a dream about this person, and they decided to go swimming. And they went out of the wisdom that I had. I stood on the shore and I saw that the water was moving. So there was a change in God. I warned this person. I said, hey, you might not want to go out swimming right now because there's a change coming. They didn't listen. They decided to go on their own. So finally, the water started taking further and further away. It started to constrain. So I'm over here, anything I can physically find going that would stay afloat.
Mm-hmm.
Here, going and kept going, it happened, and they would just push it off to the side. No, that's not good enough. That's not the answer. That's not going to work. And eventually, In this, the Lord told me to walk away. They will choose to go out. And out of my compassion and my soul, I began to weep.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Lord, why would someone choose this life?
Right.
And it broke my heart, man. I had the hardest time.
It's choosing
They got
every
so
day.
deep inside of me that I could not be comforted
Yeah.
because I have a love in
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and that's the thing I feel that it's hard to let someone fall, you know. It's hard to let them
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to see that, and eventually you say, hey, we're gonna get right back up, you know. But and it's so difficult to be so meek.
Uh-huh.
You have the strength to do so.
Yeah.
But I do think that it does refer back to the Great Commission that we have in this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a supernatural survival instinct. You know, it makes a difference between the human and the beast.
Mm-hmm.
The beast will say, well, a mother will give them their infant, their calf or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They break the leg and there's a predator after them.
Yeah.
You know, that's the whole idea why we got the idea of a scapegoat. You know, we just freeze and they're okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the beast eat, you will no longer eat anything. You know,
Heck yeah.
but I think that just in our general feeling as humans, we want to say something.
Mm-hmm.
Let it have that genuine love.
Heck yeah. Okay, last thing, and then we're gonna close for real this time. Grace isn't something we understand or extend fundamentally. It's a foreign concept that's come to us by way of Jesus. He being the embodiment of heaven coming to earth so that the guilty can be declared innocent on the basis of grace and grace alone. Even in this, the transcendent God is unveiled for us. The glory cloud is brought low enough for us to peek behind the smoke. Every false religion and the God it represents reveals itself as a religion born from the earth in the way it offers up salvation only to those that deserve it. But the God who cannot be compared, who has all wisdom, in using what the world perceives as foolish, did the unthinkable. He made it so that the only object the undeserving have to offer in exchange for pardon is faith. Arranging salvation this way is incomprehensible, yes. Indeed, it is holy, set apart, different from the way any other God was set up the way of redemption. And then she quotes Micah. Who is a God like you who pardons iniquity and passes over the transgression of the remnant of his inheritance, who does not retain his anger forever because he delights in loving devotion? And she said, no one is. No one. That's crazy. We have such a hard time with that because we are always taught rules, rules, rules. Do this, be like this, don't cry, stop doing that, stop doing this, do this, so on and so forth. And so when it comes to legitimately relationship with God, again, we know all the scriptures, we know all the things, we quote them, but very rarely do we just believe. Very rarely do I just believe that God is worried about my math test. I don't believe that God wants me to drink more water because I don't believe that God is concerned about my body and how good it operates. I don't believe that God cares about my sleep. I don't believe that God cares about my energy. I don't believe that God cares about this. I don't believe that God cares when in essence, he cares about all of it. And we said it a couple weeks ago. We believe that Jesus died on the cross to give us salvation. Yes, 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 yes. I believe that all day, every day. That's why I'm here. Duh. Where can I serve? Because here's my checklist. I got to serve. I got to do something now. Where is it? Where is it? What can I do? But I don't believe that God is just in all of it. And that is what faith is. Trusting that legitimately he's going to give you every single piece that you need in any given moment, in any situation. So sometimes it's peace. Sometimes it's joy. Sometimes it is the grace to be quiet. For people who need validation, who like need the spotlight, that's very hard to trust God that, hey, you're going to be enough. And I say that from experience, from a person who had to make the joke, from the person who had to be the center of attention, to who had to make sure everybody in the room is good for my sake, right? Somebody posts something on Facebook and immediately my comment is about me in relation to them, not just about them, because I need the validation, because I don't believe that God sees me. I don't believe that God's like, yo, Rayford, you tight. I don't believe that. And so she goes on to say, this is where or Tuesday morning, she's like, God doesn't change. It's us who change. And that's why on one moment I can believe him and the next I don't. That is being double-minded in all your ways. So I'm tired, I'm stressed out, I'm trying to figure all this other stuff out when all I have to do is believe that he's going to get me through whatever it is. All I have to do is believe that if I am vulnerable with my wife, that God is going to allow her heart to hear what I'm actually trying to say, even if I don't say it well. That is what faith is. Keep buying books and putting them on the bookshelf. I don't know who's reading the books, but I do know every 4 or 5 weeks or so, I got to buy more books. It is just my belief that I believe that God's going to do what he's going to do with the books. So I'm just going to keep being obedient to buying the books. Well, Rayford, that's not how he didn't tell me how church goes. He told me to have books that's for free. That's over there, you know? He told me just put the books over there, make them free. But I go, it's in everything. It's like the big things as a pastor is like, oh man, is the whole church doing this or is the whole church? Just be obedient and believe that I am doing in the hearts, Rayford. Oh, that's way easier. Okay, I can do that. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the overarching faith that gets us here on a Sunday morning. I'm talking about the faith that carries me through the day, that says God won't change. And I do believe that. And because he won't change, he's always going to give his best to me. Again, when I don't like what that looks like, that's because I am now imaging God in my likeness. But realistically, man, that is the faith that we are talking about. And all I have to do is believe. That's it. Take everything away. Why don't we do stuff during the week or do that or whatever? No, because I just need people to believe. I don't even really want like things to do because I don't want people to create checklists. When we started, I would get so mad when people would not come to church to set up the church. I was so frustrated. A couple times I went off on the church on Sunday morning. And why is Rayford going off? Because Rayford doesn't believe that God is doing enough in the hearts for the people to show up and serve. That's how I felt. That's how I felt. Oh, well, God, if they love you, then they should show up and do stuff. If they really here for you, Lord, they're going to show up and set the chairs up. One time, I didn't even set the chairs up. I did this computer screen or the screen, computer, music. And I was like, they can set their own chairs up today. I don't even care. Lee was like, hey, man, you want me to pray for you? I was like, nah, I don't need no prayer. I'm good. I'm talking to Jesus. That Friday, no, I don't need no prayer. I'm talking to Jesus. We good, you know? Me and Jesus good. Yeah, me and Jesus were so good. That Friday, a lady who was at church was like, God said don't ever do that again. I was like, yeah, he told me that on Monday. But that's because Rafer, had a checklist for what it looked like for you guys to be churchgoers. And now it's flipped to the other side where it's like, yo, it's legitimately between you and Jesus. It's just my job to present the truth. That's it. And in presenting that, believing that God will be who he is to all of you. Yes, that he's the one to complete it. I'm trying to just make sure I don't go off on my kids and I use nice, soft words with my wife. Okay, that is enough every day. You also want me to carry your walk with Jesus? No, thank you. I'll pass. My daughter don't even like me until it's the middle of the night. And she's like, Daddy, I need you. I get out that bed so fast. Come here. But I go, realistically, I have enough to believe God for in my life. You know what I'm saying? And every day, whatever it is, if it's I'm anxious about this, or if this is freaking me out, or things are going great, believing that God is going to be who he is every single moment, every single day, regardless of whatever the circumstance is. Because he is outside, because he is not me, because he is so big, and all he legitimately wants from me is just my faith. He does the rest of it. And you know what's so crazy about that? The Holy Spirit actually gives you supernatural faith to believe. So even if you're in a place where you're like, yo, I don't even believe right now, the Holy Spirit will give you that. That's crazy. He is going to show up and give you the one thing that you need to actually make this thing happen. You don't even have to do that part on your own. God has made this too easy, and we throw all of that in the trash for what? I don't know. But literally, even the one thing that I just need, God is going to give me that. That's crazy.
I think that's in their nature, because when you just said that part, I thought about like Trey, when he comes in and he wants to do his hair, or he wants to like do something, you watch him trying to do something, like, you don't even know what he's doing, like, you're trying to do, you don't know how to do that, but he's still like, watch me, I got this, and he's trying to reach this end result, and doing it from a human who doesn't even know how to operate a curling.
Right.
What are you doing? It's not 380 degrees right now. Like, don't touch it. Because I have a result that I'm trying to get to. I can see what I need to do. But we just make up our own rules as we go.
It's crazy.
It's trying to cope with our reality, like our responses are what we default to, you know. But like other
Yeah.
give you the tools. Let me show you how to do it. Let me just go over.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Be holy, right? So all of the things we talk about, love, grace, and mercy, it's like the fruit of the Spirit. You have to live our fruit.
Right.
Holiness, which you go to the cross and you go, you can't stop the cross, you go back to the garden, you go back. Oh, wait, I can't go back because I want. But be holy, right? And when we are living in this holiness that gives us as a people, actual community that happens in the body.
Right.
So being, when you're actually, everything comes out of it. I
Correct.
start serving,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't look around and figure out why people aren't joining my service.
Correct.
Because I'm not doing this.
I'm not doing it for them. Yeah.
I'm called to do this. And so
Mhm.
I do this. And that's why the success of the early church, when they were filled with the Holy Spirit, they were holy.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden they began to function in that. And it said there was never a need.
Right.
Because people weren't looking at what is everybody else doing.
Correct.
They're going, this is something.
Yeah.
that-
He.
this is
Uh-huh.
not peripheral. This is
Yeah.
and everything's
Will come out of that every time. Mm-hmm. Every single time, it will come out of this. That's tight. Anything else? I try to keep the chat under an hour. We are officially at 1 hour and 21 minutes today, but y'all fault, you know. I just show up. Jesus does the rest. I told you guys that. Anyway, anything else before we go into the holy place and spend some time with Jesus? No. All right. Let's go into the holy place and yeah, we'll do it.